Good morning, everyone. Thanks to the AZ Bio organizers for the opportunity, and thank you to the audience for spending the time and being here today. So we're going to give you an overview of our 15 years of impact. This is me. I've been with C-Path since the organization was 2 years old. I've seen the growth of the organization, and I've played several different roles, and now I'm the Chief Science Officer. So it's an honor to play that role, and it's an honor to be here. So let's start with the beginning. So this is where we came from. And so if you think of C-Path, you have to think of the Critical Path Initiative. And the Critical Path Initiative is that this is an FDA effort that started with this white paper published in 2004. And so this white paper essentially was a call to action to transform fundamentally the drug development process through collaborations. And we, the Critical Path Institute, were incorporated in 2005 to help FDA realize the vision forth in the Critical Path Initiative. And so that's why we have the name we have. As you can see in the slide background, we're celebrating 15 years of existence and impact. And so one question that we get is, okay, so if you work so closely with the FDA, and if you were created in order to respond and help FDA realize the vision of the Critical Path Initiative, why are you in Tucson? Well, this all starts with Ray Woosley, our founder. He's the one who recruited me to join the organization. He's the one who infected me with his vision. He started his career in industry a while ago, in the golden era of antiarrhythmic drug development in the early 80s. And as soon as he started his career in pharma, he recognized that the process was inefficient. And he always wanted to have a forum where drug companies could meet up and share information, not on the products, not anything that would be problematic, but just think through the process and how the process could be optimized. That didn't take at the time. He then went to academia, which is an interesting move. It's usually the other way around. But he went to Vanderbilt, and there he made significant contributions to the fields of pharmacogenomics and pharmacometrics. He kept the idea of making his forum happen, but that didn't take at Vanderbilt. And then he got an offer from Georgetown. He went to Georgetown, much closer to the FDA. He established a lot of connections with the agency back then, and he created a world-class clinical pharmacology group in Georgetown in those days. And then an offer came to come to the U of A to be the Dean of the College of Medicine and be Vice President of Research. And so he took that option and moved to Tucson. And in 2004, the Critical Path Initiative from FDA was published, and he immediately recognized the opportunity. So we were founded in 2004 within the U of A, and then we were incorporated in 2005. So we are a program from the U of A. We kept growing. We kept transforming the drug development process. In 2013, after Ray's retirement, Martha Brumfield took the reins, and she helped us really solidify our global presence with first an office in London and now an office in Dublin. And since April of 2019, we are under the visionary leadership of Joseph Sharon, who has helped us pretty much double our revenue and double our impact in the midst of a pandemic. And okay, so that's what we're in Tucson. But then if you ask, okay, what is it that you guys really do? And so if you think about it, we do three things with one objective. So we generate the legal infrastructure, we generate the scientific infrastructure, and we generate the regulatory infrastructure to be able to provide this neutral ground so that companies that need to remain competitors outside can come to this neutral ground that we provide, and together with the regulators, other government agencies, the patient groups, and academia, can collaborate and share information that they would not be able to share otherwise. A lot of times that information comes in the form of the patient level data from the industry trials, the observational studies from academia, and the patient registries from the patient groups. And we take that information, we transform that information into actionable knowledge for drug development. And we put those solutions through formal regulatory review pathways at the FDA and EMA to generate the necessary confidence for their adoption. And that's how we transform the drug development process. So this is not an extensive, exhaustive timeline of everything that we've done, but we started with the first public-private partnership that was focused on predictive safety. That's the Predictive Safety Testing Consortium. That was our first, indication agnostic. And then in 2010, we continued with the indication agnostic theme with the creation of the Patient Reported Outcomes Consortium. But we started also focusing on very challenging and very specific therapeutic areas, so indication-specific efforts. And each one of the efforts that we started in each one of those areas learned from the previous one. So integration of knowledge is a key component of what we do. And now we're back to indication agnostic efforts like the Rare Disease Cures Accelerator data analytics platform that deals with any and all rare diseases, and the Cure Drug Repurposing Collaboratory that deals with any infectious disease and some oncology indications, at least to begin with. So in terms of the actual programs that we have active, these are the ones. And so as you can see, there's some that are indication specific or others that are indication agnostic. But the common denominator, the foundation of every single one of these efforts is collaboration. And so in terms of collaboration, we have partnerships with more than 80 pharmaceutical and biotech companies, more than 34 nonprofit organizations, more than 11 government agencies, and that includes the regulatory agencies, and more than 20 universities with more than 1,600 scientists collaborating with us on a daily basis. And so with that in mind, the information that we gather, as we shared before, where we take the patient level data and the experiment level data, has grown, as you can see in this graph, to being close to 140,000 subjects from 156 different data sources, from clinical trials to observational studies to registries, and 163 preclinical studies with just over 11,000 subjects, so the animal data sets that we integrate. And in tuberculosis, we have over 9,000 isolates from the pathogen. So that's a pretty unique integration of data. So we worked in the field of big data even before that was a buzzword. But then the question, and so that's great, that provides us the foundation to generate the solutions that we are known for. But then one question that comes to mind when you see these numbers of data sources is, how can you possibly make sense of all those different data sets? And so we have to use standards. And the kinds of standards that we use are CDISC standards. And so we've had to either directly or in partnership develop therapeutic area specific standards so that we can make sense of those data sets that we integrate. Now, one advantage that these CDISC standards have is that they themselves are a resource for industry, because after December of 2017, every single clinical data point submitted to the FDA for the evaluation of the efficacy and safety of drugs needs to be submitted in CDISC form. So the standards themselves are a resource for our partners in industry. And that's what allows us to really have all the data sets speak the same language, so to speak. But in addition addition to all that, we want to create added value. And when we get the permission from the contributors to do so, we make the integrated databases available to qualified researchers outside of c-path and outside of the collaborations we run. And in that vein, we have 7 databases that represent just over 28,000 subjects and over 9,000 TB isolates from the pathogen across all these data sets, 3 in tuberculosis, like I said, 1 with the isolates, 2 with clinical trial data, but also data sets in Friedreich's ataxia, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, and polycystic kidney disease. So that's a great added value. Zooming into the Alzheimer's database example, this one database that we can make available to qualified researchers through the Critical Path for Alzheimer's Disease Consortium has 41 studies that represent more than 20,000 subjects. So that's the biggest one that we can make available, and it's globally accessible. Currently actively interacting with the data as we speak from more than 700 organizations in 47 countries. So that's a great testament to that added value that we provide. But again, we're not a vendor, and that's not our main mission. Our main mission is to do this, generate those actionable solutions in the case of RDCA in rare diseases, but if it's not a rare disease, we generate those solutions nonetheless. And how can we make that happen? We make that happen because we have the luxury of a data collaboration center, and we have the luxury of the quantitative medicine program, which is the one that I helped create. And so the data collaboration center provides us the infrastructure and the procedures to be able to integrate all the different data sources that we're able to integrate with the legal infrastructure to make that happen. And then the data science infrastructure to be able to curate and standardize those data. And after we have the data speaking the same language, that's when our partnerships between QuantMed, different consortia, and the external researchers to generate the solutions that we are known for. And so a lot of times these solutions take the form of clinical trial simulators, where you're able to integrate the information, quantitatively speaking, from disease progression, drug effects, placebo effects, and dropouts, and combine them in such a way that you can really truly optimize the design of clinical trials. I'll expand on this notion in a little bit. But in addition, we're working on expanding the usability of our interfaces. And so we're thinking of 3 levels of interface. One that allows a much better orientation as to what kinds of variables are in the different data sets. Another one that allows the researcher to generate their own analysis subsets. And then a third one, very sophisticated one, that allows very sophisticated analyses to happen within the data platform without the need to extract the data outside. So with that, I'm going to share with you some examples of tangible impact over our 15 years of existence. I'm going to start with examples of impact in model-informed drug development. So there's going to be a webinar run by Jackson on Thursday of this week. And I encourage you to catch that webinar. And so in tuberculosis, we developed a collection of quantitative solutions from preclinical to translational to clinical trial quantitative models that really helped catalyze the first approval for the first new drug against tuberculosis in about 50 years. And that was bedaquiline. And then after bedaquiline came protominate, and then after that came linezolid, and then the combination of those drugs. So really that transformed an area where there was nothing into an area where there were 3 major approvals and a solid pipeline of more than 20 drugs currently under development. In Alzheimer's disease, we developed a couple of very sophisticated quantitative tools that can help researchers optimize the design of trials that are going to evaluate the efficacy and safety of drugs intended to be used before the diagnosis of dementia, as well as after the diagnosis of dementia. I'm going to expand on these a little bit. And then in polycystic kidney disease, we generated a joint model that looks at biomarker dynamics with disease progression. And that model essentially facilitated a series of regulatory endorsements for these tools, but also, and more importantly, it facilitated the first ever approval of a treatment to delay the disease progression in PKD. And that was tolvaptan. And that really sparked the interest in PKD drug development. And now there's a robust pipeline of over 10 drugs under development. So this is very impactful work that we have generated through collaborations. And that's where the power of collaboration and data sharing comes into fruition. Okay, in the field of biomarkers, I'm going to give you 3 examples. As you know, our first success story was the qualification of 7 preclinical kidney safety biomarkers. But more importantly, recently we received the regulatory endorsement of a composite measure that has been optimized for dose selection in clinical trials. And so this is really impactful because this allows sponsors to optimize the dose to protect the kidneys of patients with life-saving drugs under development. In Parkinson's disease, we generated the necessary evidence for sponsors to be able to understand how to optimize the use of an imaging marker to optimize patient selection for trials in the early motor stages of the disease. And those trials are ongoing as we speak. And in type 1 diabetes, we generated the evidence that allows sponsors to understand how to use biomarkers in the form of autoantibodies to optimize the selection of patients for type 1 diabetes prevention trials. And so let me emphasize that. This is type 1 diabetes prevention, so preventing the autoimmune damage to the pancreas. And so these trials have yielded the first breakthrough designation for teplizumab, the first drug approved to delay the onset of T1D. So this is a pretty cool testament of our impact in drug development through biomarkers. And then in outcomes research, patient-reported outcome instruments, we also have a number of impact stories in asthma. The COA program at C-Path through the PRO consortium developed a series of novel diaries that allow patients to report their symptoms, and that can be used as a primary endpoint in clinical trials. And in non-small cell lung cancer, they also developed a novel questionnaire that, again, allows patients to report their symptoms, and that can be used as a primary endpoint, and the same in major depression. And as stated, those trials are ongoing. And again, that's a testament of pretty impactful work through collaboration. So let me give you a little bit of a deeper dive, and there's going to be another webinar on the 17th. So catch that one by Jackson Burton. But let me just give you a tangible example of what you can do with clinical trial simulators. And this is an example with our predementia trial simulator. This is a realistic scenario, an actual scenario of a company trying to design a study to evaluate the efficacy and the safety of a therapeutic candidate to prevent the onset of dementia. So the challenge is that those trials are quite expensive, and so the company realistically had restricted realistic budget of being able to recruit 200 patients for the trial. And so what happens is that if you just run the trials that everybody else runs, so this is, you guys in the industry will know that there's a tendency to replicate what the competitors are doing. So in this case, if this company were to do that, you can see that the trial is going to fail and there's not going to be a demonstration of efficacy at the end of the study. But with the power of being able to quantitatively understand disease progression, drug effects, placebo effect, and dropouts, and how the biomarkers play into the design of the clinical trials, the company is able to say, okay, so what happens if we optimize our frequency of visits? What happens if we optimize our selection criteria based on demographics? What happens if we optimize our selection criteria based on baseline severity for the subjects we want to recruit? What happens if we also optimize our patient selection based on a genetic marker, the ApoE4 gene carrier status? What happens if we also optimize our patient selection strategy based on an imaging marker and we include patients that have more solid evidence of hippocampal atrophy? Well, in that case, we can keep the sample size at 200 and we would have a winning trial. And that's all great, and that's, like I said, a realistic example of work happening within the Alzheimer's Consortium. But this is all assuming that your dropout scenario is going to be as expected, as per the design and the characteristics of the subjects at baseline. However, we're in the midst of a very interesting time with COVID, a pandemic that is affecting the ability of patients to be able to comply with clinical visits, and that in turn translates into dropouts, an increased number of dropouts in the trials that are being run. And so you can keep the simulation the same, but if you increase the dropout burden, you can understand what level of dropout burden actually kills the trial. And this is an example of ongoing work that we're doing at the request of members for CPAT and at the request of the FDA to help everyone understand what their trials can take in terms of dropouts before the integrity of those ongoing trials gets compromised. So again, proactive contribution to mitigate the impact of the pandemic on drug development. Continuing on that thread, there's going to be a webinar on the 16th by Mark Oskito. I recommend that you catch that. So let me walk you through the Cure ID app. And if you have a chance to check it out, I encourage you to do so. This is an application that was developed jointly by the FDA and NCATS as a non-intrusive way for clinicians in the trenches to report their real-world data experience with treating patients in need, mostly with off-label drug use in infectious diseases. And so this provides a treasure trove of data, of real-world data, without the complication of personal health information and protected health information that can be leveraged to gain insights. And so around this app, we recently launched the Cure Drug Repurposing Collaboratory. Like I said, there's going to be a webinar where the details are going to be discussed. But essentially what we want to do is transform this real-world data into real-world evidence through advanced analytics and artificial intelligence into hypotheses and signals that can then be used to optimize trials to do drug repurposing efforts in infectious diseases. And of course, we have a COVID-19 pilot. And we're also thinking of a pilot for that effort in valley fever, which is an important disease for Arizona. And our electronic PRO consortium proactively generated 3 best practice documents to minimize the impact of the pandemic on trials that are incorporating patient-reported outcome measures. So this one is intended to inform how to maximize electronic data capture. This one is intended to inform how to implement response scales for PRO measures in clinical trials. And this one illustrates how to migrate existing data collection modalities into other modes, meaning electronic, to help also mitigate the impact of the pandemic on data collection in ongoing trials. And so with that's the summary of the impact that I wanted to share with you. But then what does the future look like? So in the next 5 years, what we are focusing on doing is solidifying our collaborations and build new collaborations to continue to put Arizona on the map as a powerhouse in the biotech scene. And then we also want to strengthen our impact in optimizing and transforming medical product developments. And we also want to continue to be a beacon for global and diverse talent to join us and contribute to drug development, medical product development, and contribute to the growth of the state in economic terms. So in summary, we are a global organization deeply rooted in the Tucson community, and we continue to plan to be that way. And we are an organization that coordinates and runs collaborations with many different groups and many different individuals, and that includes a unique relationship with international regulatory agencies. And we want to continue to transform the medical product development process as per the Critical Path Initiative document back in 2004, which is the reason why we were created in the first place. So with that, I'll thank you for listening, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thanks.